The People's Platform.
A very good evening and welcome to this evening's edition of The People's Platform, where we have conversations that matter to you, the people of Sri Lanka. For the Newsfirst team, I am Prabath Morawakage, and joining me this evening to have yet another insightful conversation is Dr. Prabath Morawakage from the Department of Finance, University of Kelaniya. Thank you very much, Doctor, for accepting our invitation and being with me here today.
Hi, Jamal. Nice to be here. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. So let's get the ball rolling, Dr. Morawakage. On the offset, I want to discuss with you about the dire situation Sri Lanka is in. We have declared bankruptcy and you know how the rest follows. But what the government has been doing together with the IMF and the extended fund facility we have been engaged in is in one component that they have put forward is revenue generation, and we see that the government has opted to take the route of increasing taxes, indirect taxes, and taxing the people. We saw how the VAT percentage was increased from 15 to 18%, and payee taxes threshold was increased earlier this year, and so on. But there are other ways where you can generate revenue in this country, especially by increasing gross domestic product, increasing the production in our country. But for decades, Sri Lanka has been following very archaic methods of revenue generation, Doctor. So speak to me a bit about how we can modernize revenue generation. What sort of sectors should we focus on in order for us to generate more revenue in this country in order to uplift our economy and GDP as a whole?
Yes, Jamal, it's a good beginning to discuss. When it comes to the current situation in the Sri Lankan context, we can see the most of the people are suffering due to the taxation.
Yes.
I think the government has imposed taxes. That is the easiest way to generate the revenue.
Yes.
But if you look at restructuring the economy, and if we can redefine the economic policies,
right,
we will be able to generate more revenue in this economy. For example, if you look at today's context, the labor force participation rate is very low.
Right.
It is around 50%. That means 50% of the active labor is out of the labor force. So that means we need to take some actions to bring them into the labor force participation, and then we can get more productivity into the economy.
Right.
And the other aspect is the most of the resources are not. We are only focusing on the Western province and maybe several other provinces like Coimbatore and southern provinces. But if you look at northern and eastern provinces, still we have not touched them. Even after the 30 years of war, we expected more contribution from these areas. We have not taken their contribution yet. So we have a lot of isolated land around the country. We need to take them into most of the economic like revenue generating centers. As example, if you take most of the land, abundant land can be used as warehouses, which is a big business nowadays globally. Warehousing and when it
the
comes
logistics
to
and supply chain industry,
because we are in the middle of the world, so then we can use those areas for warehousing, and the other one energy, and then most of the areas you can see the solar power and the wind power generation can be done easily.
Yes.
So these things we need to focus how we can get the resources which has been abundant into the economy, and thereby we can expand the economy. That is the only solution we have. If we impose taxes, so then the economy is shrinked. So that means we can't expect the economy to grow. The main problem what we identify at the moment is the taxation decrease the economic development, economic growth.
Yes.
Therefore we need to encourage other ways, other mechanisms by going into the other areas,
right,
and exploiting other labor but we have not taken into the labor force. So then that's what I see, how we can increase the revenue of this economy. When we increase the GDP, automatically the government revenue and other the other flows, cash flows to the economy can be increased. So that's what I see at the moment.
Right. So in your explanation at the start, you pointed out very important stat that is also quite concerning about the labor force. Can you repeat that for our viewers, because that is a very important stat we must talk about before I ask you.
Currently it's around 8 million. We have 22 million people in the economy, and of that we normally calculate the labor force as the people who are above 15 years old.
Right.
So which is now of that only 8 million we have taken into the labor force participation, which is nearly 50%, but we have ignored the rest of the 50% of.
Why has that happened, doctor?
There are several reasons, because when it comes to the labor force, we can identify most of the people who have opted other avenues like permanent education, maybe religious activities. So that's another aspect. But on the other hand, there are unemployed people. Now unemployment has increased as people want to like that is in the labor force participation normally. But when it comes to the other aspect, we have to analyze clearly who are the people. Most of the females are unemployed, and they are not in the labor force because most of our mothers who are working domestic activities, and therefore we need to analyze clearly this labor force which is out of the labor force. Then we need to analyze age-wise, education-wise, and then it is already in the census and statistics, but we need to go and deeply analyze why they are not coming into the labor, because 50% of the economy is run by 50% of the labor force, and then the total economy is run by 50% of the labor force, and then that people have to what you call maintain other 50%. Right. So therefore it is unfair.
There is no proper balance. Right.
And on the other hand, they are the people who pay the taxes. They are the people who do the activities. So therefore we need to think about why do we maintain that 50% in the economy. We need to think radically, and we need to think, we need to redefine why it is happening. Then we need to bring new policies to take their participation into the economy in terms of, like, they may be like doing some domestic activities. So as example, if you encourage them to do their like economic activities in the home, the good old days we had mothers who are producing, sewing their own what you call garments, and then many other
several goods and
handicrafts, etc. But nowadays they are not doing that. The reason is they can't find a market. So we need to think about how we can find a market for the rural areas, and then that is actually we can easily link. If you look at the models like Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, Cambodia, these are the tigers in the Asian South Asian economy, Asia Pacific region. So then if you look at their models, they highly encourage the rural area people to take part in the economy, and then whatever the product comes, they link to the international trade. So we need to identify the international market. That's why our embassies are there. So they need to think about how they can find international markets. So that should be their focus. So we should give them targets. But let's say if you are in Australia, then you need to find a market for our handicrafts. You need to find a market for our products, spices maybe. There are plenty of markets available outside. So why we can't touch this rural market, which is low cost? And on the other hand, another problem what I find is the energy for the people. Nowadays energy is very costly. We need to think about how we can cater them low cost energy. It is again easy when we look at wind and solar power. If we can encourage them to have their own solar by giving a tax rebate for the solar panels, or by at least
a concession for the installation of solar panels and solar. Doctor, you bordered on when we were talking about homegrown industries and production, we are bordering on the micro, small and medium enterprises topic. So I want to talk to you about that, because after COVID-19 and the economic crisis that Sri Lanka faced, many small and micro and medium scale enterprises took a very big hit. They were financially down, they didn't have sources of finance, they couldn't source products at fair prices, and their products didn't fetch a good price, they didn't have a marketplace like you said. But a lot of the time, many of our female entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs as a whole who are coming up the ranks through their own products do not have the necessary financing required to manufacture these products. So in your opinion, how can the state support these entrepreneurs to come forward and manufacture their products by giving them external financing sources? How can you do that? How can they be given external financing at low interest rates and so on? Let's talk about that as well.
Yeah, it's a good question. We can develop a model like most of the time the university system has a big role to play in this context.
Right.
Because they don't have much financial literacy. In my own case, in our university, our department created a particular program called Financial Literacy Program.
Right.
So that is online available, free course.
Okay.
It's free.
Right.
So that's what we need to encourage people
But
to...
many are unaware that such courses exist.
Yeah.
Right.
So that is free course you can take from YouTube online. So if you can watch this kind of program, your financial literacy increases. Most of the people, they don't have a financial literacy, that's why they are under debt trapped, because they don't have the knowledge of how to manage the fund.
And most of them have fallen prey to micro loans.
Exactly. So therefore we need to give them financial literacy first, that is financial inclusion.
Right.
And then the other one, as I mentioned, for example, we have nearly 15 universities around the country. They are catering to different provinces.
Right.
Example, if you take Ruhuna, that caters to the southern province. Vayamba caters to the University of Vayamba and the University of Uvavelas. Then Trincomalee itself they have, and Jaffna.
Yes.
So like that we have this university system. For each university can come up with different programs identifying the competences of that particular region. As example, if you take the Jaffna, they have competence for the fishery.
Right.
They have competence for different in agricultural products.
Right.
If you look at southern province,
Maybe Palmyra products and
exactly.
so on.
And the other one spices when it comes to the down south.
Okay.
And cinnamon, etc.
Yes.
So then we need to come up with research, impact research. That's what I look at. Nowadays it lacks in Sri Lankan context. We lack impact research. We need to do impactful research, how we can come up with solutions for these people, SMEs especially. Mainly how we can create a sustainable model for the SMEs. Nowadays we are lacking a sustainable model.
So you believe including support for SMEs should be drafted as a national policy, so regardless of which government is in power,
exactly,
that national policy will be executed to uplift the standards of SMEs.
In that case, I think that model should be independent, as you correctly mentioned. When the government changed, the ministry should not be changed.
Exactly.
So the ministers change, and then the
scope of the ministries change. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. Not only the university but also the administrative officers. They have a clear-cut role in this context, because when the ministry change, the secretary changes, and then the policy changes.
Yes.
So therefore, we need to have unchanged policy, a constant policy that can be linked with the university, and also university can be linked with the international organization. There are plenty of organizations working outside, as example World Bank, ADB, UNPRI. So there are investors like who look at the impact, social impact investors. We need to promote that kind of a model. The university has the role of intermediation. As example, they can link with the World Bank projects, write the proposal to the World Bank and take the grants and
hand it down to the manufacturers.
Yeah, exactly. And then because when it comes to the university system also, what happen, our lecturers, they prefer consultancy, and then they again go and put the burden on the SME.
Yes.
Because once we provide the consultancy, they are supposed to pay us.
Yes.
That model should be changed. The consultancy, yes, it should be paid, but the paying party or the party who financed that should be
supported by a grant or external
maybe any investor, right? So then that kind of model we should develop, and then we can think about the sustainable market as well, because when we give them the knowledge, they will look at whether I can reach that market, what are the competencies I need to improve in order to cater to that market. So therefore I think the capacity building of the SME is the number one, because as I explained earlier, financial literacy should be improved. On the other hand, how they tap the other markets, international market, what kind of product nowadays globally trending, yeah, and then they will see whether I can cater to that market. As I explained earlier, we need to identify the region wise what are the each region's competence.
Right.
The countrywide we should have certain pillars. So I don't identify nowadays our Sri Lankan economic policy has that kind of I would call
program
framework.
Okay.
We need to have certain pillars from which our economy is driven. For example, we talk about digital economy.
Yes.
And then but we don't have data. That's the main problem. Even SMEs, what they find, because when I look at certain statistics, only the statistics are available up to 2018.
Right.
So regarding
for
SMEs,
a period of 3 or 4 years,
5
the
years,
statistics have not been updated.
No update. So then if we make a decision regarding these people, so then we make decision which is backdated 5 years. So
and
that is
the environment, the climate now is vastly different from what it existed in 2008.
We talk about artificial intelligence and then a lot of machine learning techniques, but this that gap, the knowledge gap and decision making information gap, that's another main problem our SMEs they face. They don't have the access to information, then they don't have much power in terms of information. The big players, big fish, they have information because they have the power, and then they act
and
very
they capture
quickly,
a large portion of the market share.
of the market share.
Right.
As example, you can see nowadays a lot of things happening. They drive on the information, make lot of profits.
Yes.
Like taxation and other stuff.
And so on. So we are in conversation with Dr. Prabath Morawakage from the Department of Finance, University of Kelaniya. We are discussing Sri Lanka's SME sector and how we can generate revenue for the state instead or moving away from higher taxes and taxation and thereon. We must cross over for a short commercial break. Stay tuned to the People's Platform. We will be right back.
The People's Platform.
Taru Payne discounts. Enjoy up to 30% off on frames and sunglasses this Christmas with Vikramarachi Opticians.
TV1. TV for life.
President on observation tour in Horton Plains National Park. Mahinda Rajapaksa reappointed as the leader of the SLPP. Calls for a commission to investigate the Aragalaya. SLPP General Secretary sends strong message against 3%. Ranil paved the way for economic hitmen to hold summits in the capital, alleges the FSP. Onion prices in Sri Lanka spike due to export restrictions imposed by India.
TV1. TV for life. The People's Platform.
Welcome back to the People's Platform. We are in conversation with Dr. Prabath Morawakage from the Department of Finance, University of Kelaniya. Doctor, let's pick up from where we left off before the commercial break. We spoke about the SME sector and how it can be uplifted through various ways and means. And one such thing that you mentioned that caught my attention was the lack of access to information, lack of access to trends and information concerning particular markets and so on, and the digitization of that information and how players and stakeholders in the SME industry can gain those access to information and develop their businesses. Let's talk a bit about that. How vital is it for an SME or any business at all to have access to accurate market information and not outdated market information?
Yes, Jamal, that is the main thing we observe in the international markets, access to information. That is a key and critical thing for decision making. Most of the SMEs, they don't have, as I explained earlier, we don't have information regarding SME, as well as SMEs themselves, they don't have much information. That can be a problem like information literacy.
Right.
The other one, they don't have better connections, because when it comes to some rural areas, regional areas, the signal drops. So that means we need to improve the infrastructure in terms of better networking facilities, speed network, and on the other hand we need to give them the experience of how they utilize the state of art technology. In particularly if you take a tab, if you take any other computer, desktop, how do they utilize internet?
Yes, because nowadays you don't necessarily have to have a physical shop or an outlet to sell your products. There are so many e-market or e-commerce platforms that you can publish your products for anyone in the world, not just Sri Lanka, to purchase your products. Is that
exactly?
Am I right?
Exactly. When it comes to that, I will say that most of the country economies I mentioned earlier, the Vietnam, Laos, Cambodia, these people, they have now started online shopping, virtual markets, and they are selling their agricultural products to the other economies, advanced economies, and they are gaining a lot because they don't have any intermediary. Once they, if we can train them how they can use this equipment and how do they establish a virtual platform.
Yes.
So that is a key. That is the key for their success, and then that will give them a sustainable market. And then they don't think about financing. They don't think about financing their debts.
Yes.
Because they get the cash flow.
Exactly. It's
Then
pure profit.
Yeah. So therefore it's essential to give them the information power in terms of the equipment, infrastructure, and also the knowledge. That can be done easily with the university system that I mentioned. For that we need to think about how to finance those programs, because we can't expect our teachers to go and teach, because we have to do research, we have to do other stuff, and then therefore we need to think about a model how we can go and cater them certain products at a very low cost.
Right.
For that we need to have some collaborations.
Right.
Maybe we can think about the big partners in the economy. We can increase the smooth supply chain of the products. Like as example, if you take the retailers, the big retailers, they need products very easily, and then we can link the rural area farmer with the retailer, main retailer, and then by reducing the intermediaries, giving more benefit to the SME.
Yes.
So then we need to think about how we can do that. As example, if we can directly link the SME with the retailer, then that can give you more benefit, and then the logistic, rest of the thing logistic, as I explained, warehouses, transportation, those stuff. Then for that again infrastructure should be improved. And not only that, when it comes to the information efficiency, we need to think about the data generation. How do we generate data? So then I have explained somewhere else as well, we need to think about how we can get the participation of the idle resources in the regional areas. As example, we have 14,000 odd what you call rural
lands, or
not land, 14,000 what you call in Sinhala it is called Gram Seva or something.
Right, okay, Gram and Niladhari divisions. Yes.
Yeah, and then we have 2-3 people who have employed there to get that particular division.
Yes, and there are development officers also supporting
they can collect this data easily because they have the capacity to use a computer.
Yes,
they can go and collect the data real time, or maybe weekly, maybe at least monthly. We don't have even quarterly data updating. So therefore monthly they can go and collect the 400-300 houses data, their education, their health, and their resources, what are the idle resources status, they have, financial status, etc. And then we can identify the people who have not been employed, who have not been taken to the labor posts,
Right.
and then we can encourage by giving them some courses, by giving them some knowledge. When we can get the participation
Right.
of them to the economy. So
Yes.
then at the same time we generate data points, and then we identify the resources which are idle in each house. Then we can link
Create a sharing economy.
Exactly like what's going on in other international markets.
Right.
We have certain apps in Sri Lanka, but that is very popular in only the city area, urban areas.
So it hasn't disseminated to the rural areas
area.
or other provinces apart from the
The
western
main problem I observe is they don't have the capacity to use these devices.
Right.
And they don't have proper connection, and the cost of data, it's very high nowadays. We need to think about how do we bring down the data cost if we think about a digital economy. So therefore encouraging low cost data, low cost devices to the rural areas, so that will help us to come up with a better economy.
Right. So in essence, all of these must come together, and also budding entrepreneurs who are in the SME sector, who want to break into the SME sector, must be given the necessary opportunity, and that I think the university system plays a crucial role in facilitating that, giving them the necessary education, curating programs that are aimed at creating better entrepreneurs and so on, will ultimately lead to the growth of the SME sector in the country. Is that what you believe? Dr.
Exactly. In my opinion, we have a big role in terms of getting or integrating the resources and integrating the network,
Right.
especially the international markets and international financiers and policy makers. We can bring them to the rural areas and get the rural area participation.
Right.
Not only that, giving them the better resources at low cost.
Right.
So then we don't need to think about the bankruptcy. We don't need to think about the debt trap of these SMEs.
Because they will operate on their own.
Yeah.
Right. We were in conversation with Dr. Prabath Morawakage from the Department of Finance, University of Kelaniya. Thank you very much, Doctor, for joining me this evening and having a very insightful discussion on Sri Lanka's SME sector, revenue generation, and a plethora of topics that we discussed throughout the show. Thank you very much for being here again.
You're welcome, Jamal. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Certainly. That's the way it was on the People's Platform. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Jamal Ratnayaka. Do have a great Friday night and see you on Monday.